My dad's new girlfriend moved in 4 months after Mom's accident and drained my college fund to throw her daughter's sweet 16. But when her drunk daughter let something slip at the party, I uncovered a truth so devastating it made them both skip town. When my dad started dating Marissa, I was 16. Mom had been gone for 4 months. One moment we were jumping on the old trampoline and laughing like little kids. The next, her spinal cord snapped, and the nurses told us she wouldn't make it. I screamed for Dad, but of course he was at another conference. He was always at conferences back then. 2 weeks later, Dad brought Marissa home. I knew something was off when he ironed a shirt and actually cleaned the kitchen. She walked in wearing a white pantsuit that probably cost more than our mortgage, with her daughter, Bella, following behind like she was on a guided tour. Marissa had this way of smiling where her eyes didn't get the memo, and the moment she stepped inside, she started touching things. Mom's ceramic bowl on the entry table, the family photos on the mantel, like she was assessing what was worth keeping. "Hannah," my dad said, not meeting my eyes, "this is Marissa from work. She's been helping me through this difficult time. And this is her daughter, Bella. She's your age." Bella looked at me, then at the stairs leading up to the bedrooms. The changes started small. Marissa replaced Mom's handmade curtains because natural light is essential for mental clarity. Then the family photos disappeared because clinging to the past is unhealthy. Mom's garden was transformed into a meditation space featuring a Buddha statue Marissa insisted was authentic. When Marissa announced that Bella needed my room for her anxiety, Dad just nodded along. "You're stronger than her, Hannah. You can handle the guest room," he said, too busy booking couples massages with Marissa to notice I'd been sleeping every night in Mom's old Northwestern hoodie, the one that still faintly smelled like her vanilla perfume. I actually helped Bella haul her designer luggage into my room, smiled when she complained the closet was too small, even gave her the desk Mom had spent 3 weekends refinishing. All because Dad shot me that look that said, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." At dinner, when Marissa gave her little speeches about fresh starts and new family dynamics, I nodded like I understood, like I wasn't dying inside watching Dad pour her wine into Mom's favorite glass. The worst part was how Marissa tried to replace Mom without ever actually caring. She hired someone to take me shopping. When I cried on Mom's anniversaries, she booked a spa appointment and got upset when it didn't magically fix me. Everything blew up when I asked Dad if I could take an SAT prep course. See, Mom had started a college fund the year I was born. She always said education was the one thing no one could take from you. "Actually," Marissa cut in before Dad could answer, "that weekend is Bella's sweet 16. We're using the family funds for the party. The country club has a $30,000 minimum." "My college fund isn't family funds," I said quietly. Dad's face got tight. "Your mother would want us to stay united. Stop being selfish." "Mom valued education more than anything." "Your mother isn't here anymore," he snapped. "Marissa knows what's best for our family now." That's when I found out the truth. The entire college fund, $43,000 Mom had scraped together by clipping coupons and overtime, was already gone. All of it. Gone to Bella's new BMW, her sorority dues for a school she hadn't even applied to yet, and Marissa's bathroom renovation. "Bella has social anxiety," Marissa said, like that justified stealing my future. "These things will help her adjust." That's when I lost it. I knew Mom's jewelry box still sat in the hall closet, and I knew her mother's pearl earrings were worth enough to at least cover the SAT prep. I headed straight to the pawn shop. But just as my plan began, it ended. The shop owner recognized my dad and called to verify since I was underage. When I got home, Marissa looked like she was about to burst into flames. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" she screeched. I pinched the bridge of my nose and slammed my bedroom door shut. But I couldn't hide for long. The next evening was Bella's grand sweet 16. By the time they rolled out the 7-tier cake, the party was nearly over. That's when I found Bella crying in the upstairs bathroom. "You hate me," she slurred. "I don't hate you." "You should," she cut in. "Want to know a secret?" She gripped the edge of the sink to steady herself. "The night before your mom died, we were at your house. Remember? Dad told you he was at a conference." My blood turned to ice. "Mom made me wait in the car, but I followed them around DAC. They were doing something to your trampoline." Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. "Mom said, this'll work perfectly, and your dad said something about needing to be seen at the hotel in the morning?" "Bella, what are you saying?" My voice cracked. "I'm drunk. Forget it. Just forget it." She waved a hand, trying to brush past me. But it was too late. She'd said too much, and my pulse was pounding so hard I could barely hear over the muffled bass coming through the bathroom door. I grabbed her wrist before she could leave. She stumbled, mascara streaming down her cheeks as she tried to pull away. "Let go, Hannah, please," she whispered, panic in her voice. But I blocked the door. "You don't get to drop something like that and run," I said, my voice trembling. "What do you mean? What were they doing to the trampoline?" Bella looked terrified. Her eyes darted toward the door. Right on cue, Marissa's voice sliced through the music. "Where's the birthday girl? Bella, sweetheart!" The bathroom door creaked open before either of us could react. Marissa stood in the doorway, her smile finally reaching her eyes for the first time since I'd met her, because she knew. She had figured out Bella said something. "Everything okay in here, girls?" she asked sweetly, but her voice made my skin crawl. The car ride home in Marissa's Mercedes felt like being locked in a glass cage. Bella passed out in the back seat, her head tipped against the window. From the driver's seat, Marissa kept tossing out pointed remarks. "Too much excitement for one night. Some people just can't handle their liquor. Say the strangest things when they drink." I didn't say a word, just watched the light streak past, my mind racing. Bella's words looped again and again. Dad hadn't been at a conference. He was home with Marissa the night before Mom died. Once home, I waited until Marissa helped Bella upstairs before cornering Dad in his study. He was slouched behind his desk, tie loosened, clearly drunk from the party. His laptop was open. The calendar app was pulled up. "Dad," I began, trying to keep my voice steady, "I need to ask you something about Mom's accident." He groaned and waved a hand. "Not tonight, Hannah. I'm exhausted." "Were you really at that conference, the weekend Mom died?" His blood-eyed eyes sharpened. "Of course I was. Why would you ask that now?" I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it. The calendar. That week. No conference. Nothing scheduled. I moved fast, snapping a photo with my phone before he realized it. He slammed the laptop shut with a bang and shot to his feet, sending his chair skidding backwards. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The study door opened. Marissa stood there, like she'd been waiting just outside the whole time. She glanced at Dad's flushed face, then at me. "Rick, honey, you should head to bed. You've had a long day." He didn't argue, just let her guide him out, tossing me a puzzled look over his shoulder. When he was gone, Marissa turned back to me. The sugary mask she wore slipped. "Bella says all kinds of nonsense when she drinks. I hope you're not taking the ramblings of a hammered teenager seriously." I didn't reply, just backed out of the room, my phone burning in my pocket with that screenshot. But when I got to my door, I froze. Fresh screwdriver gouges scarred the frame where the lock used to be. It was gone. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message with shaking hands. "Stop digging, or you'll be next." My stomach dropped. The number pattern, I'd seen it before, on the credit card statements I'd peeked at. It matched the burner phone charges on Marissa's account. The next morning at breakfast felt like sitting on a bomb. Bella sat silently, poking at her eggs, refusing to meet my eyes. Marissa was all bright chatter. "We're thinking East Coast schools for Bella," she said cheerily, slicing into her grapefruit with clinical precision. "It'll be good to get her away from distractions." Once they left for Bella's hangover brunch with her friends, I climbed into the attic. Mom's boxes were still there, stuffed into a dark corner like they didn't matter. I found Mom's old phone in a box of random electronics. The battery was completely dead, but Mom was always prepared. The charger was neatly coiled beside it. I plugged it in and waited. When it finally powered on, I went straight to her messages. The last text she sent to her best friend, Dana, made my blood freeze. "Need to talk about R and insurance. Something's not right. Rick. Rick. Dad. Looking for something specific?" I spun around.
Marissa stood in the attic doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway light behind her. "Just going through Mom's things," I said, forcing my voice to sound even. She stepped inside, her heels clicking on the wooden boards. "Grief makes people do strange things," she said calmly. "See patterns that aren't there. Create conspiracies to explain random tragedies." She picked up one of Mom's old sweaters like it was some sort of evidence. "Your father's worried about you." After she left, I tried calling Dana, straight to voicemail, again and again. Finally, a text came through. "Marissa visited. Said you're having breakdown. Please get help." My hands trembled as I opened Instagram. There were posts I didn't make, long dramatic captions about struggling with grief and acting out, all posted in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Photos of me looking exhausted or off at school. Captions about dark thoughts. Monday at school, the counselor pulled me aside before first period. Mrs. Ruiz usually smiled when she saw me, but today her face was tight with concern. "Hannah, your stepmother called. She's worried about some violent tendencies you've been showing." "What? I haven't—" "She mentioned the pawn shop incident and some threats you've supposedly made toward Bella." She leaned in. "We want to help you, but you need to be honest about what you're going through." That evening, Dad announced I'd be starting therapy with Dr. Morrison, Marissa's friend, of course, a specialist in troubled teens, already scheduled, already paid for, no discussion. My phone rang. It was the number for Grandma's nursing home. I answered instantly, clinging to the hope that someone would believe me. "Hannah, sweetheart, why haven't you visited?" Grandma sounded confused. "Your father said you didn't want to see me anymore." "That's not true. I've been trying to—" "Oh, and dear, I meant to ask, do you remember where I put the key to your mother's safety deposit box? I know she wanted you to have what's inside when you turned 18, but I just can't—" My heart started pounding. "Grandma, I'll come tomorrow. We'll look together." But when I biked to the nursing home the next afternoon, Marissa's white Mercedes was already parked outside, like a warning. I locked my bike and ran inside. Grandma's room was empty. The nurse at the desk smiled. "Oh, Mrs. Chen took her for a spa day. Such a thoughtful daughter-in-law." Something on Grandma's nightstand stopped me cold. Her reading glasses. The ones she couldn't function without. She'd never leave them behind, not ever. She couldn't even sign her name without them. I pedaled home, heart racing. Along the way, 3 neighbors were outside working on their yards. Each said something that made my skin crawl. Mr. Henson, trimming his hedge. "Saw someone out on your trampoline the night before your mom's accident. Looked like they were adjusting the springs." Mrs. Patel, walking her dog. "Strange seeing her dad's car that night when he said he was out of town." Mr. Alvarez, hosing down his driveway. "Your stepmom sure knew her way around your backyard for someone who's supposedly never been there before." It all clicked. A pattern, clear as day. Marissa had been isolating me from everyone who might help. Dana, Grandma, even Dad. She was setting me up, making me look unbalanced, erasing every support system I had. Tuesday, after school, I found a folded note in my backpack, wedged between my textbooks. "Mom checks my phone. Meet me at Mall Starbucks, 3 p.m. B. Bella." I told Jess everything first. We sat in her car in the school parking lot, my hands shaking as I showed her the screenshots, the texts. "This is nuts," she whispered. "You need to document everything. My mom always says that. Paper trail is everything." But when I got to the mall, Bella wasn't at Starbucks. Marissa was. And she wasn't alone. She brought mall security. "There she is, officer," she pointed with feigned concern. "My daughter said Hannah threatened her, told her to meet her here." She turned to me with that sickly sweet expression she always used when she was about to destroy something. "Hannah, honey, we're just trying to help you." The security guard looked bored, but he still did his job. He escorted me out while Marissa followed. Marissa played the concerned stepmother flawlessly. Other shoppers stared. Some even took pictures. That night at home, Dad cornered me in the kitchen. His voice was tight, clipped. "Bella told us everything," he said. How you grabbed her at the party, forced her to lie about that conference weekend. His disappointment felt like a knife. I know you miss your mom, he said, but taking it out on Marissa and Bella isn't going to help anyone. Dad, I have proof. Enough, he snapped, slamming his palm on the counter. You're spiraling, Hannah. Thank God Marissa is here to help us through this. I lay awake in my doorless room, staring at the ceiling. Mom's phone, hidden beneath my mattress, felt like a live wire. The text about the insurance policy, the neighbor's strange sightings, Bella's drunken confession. The puzzle pieces were all there. I just had to stay alive long enough to connect them. The next day while I was at school, Marissa redecorated my guest room. I came home to find a teddy bear sitting on my dresser, oddly positioned. Its glassy eyes pointed directly at my computer desk. I picked it up. It was too heavy, unbalanced. A quick inspection revealed a tiny camera lens hidden in one of its eyes. I set the bear back exactly where she'd placed it. That night, I made a show of journaling at my desk, writing about evidence I supposedly hidden in my school locker. I glanced at the blinking red light on the bear's eye. Sure enough, security footage later showed Marissa's Mercedes pulling into the school parking lot at 11 p.m. The night janitor remembered finding my locker open, contents scattered. I hadn't left anything there but sweaty gym clothes. On Thursday, after school, Mrs. Lee from the hardware store pulled me aside by the bike racks. She had been Mom's friend since their high school days. Her hands trembled. She told me my dad had come in the week before Mom died, bought spring adjustment tools, said he needed them for a home project. But Dad never fixed anything. Mom used to joke he couldn't screw in a light bulb without help. I wrote everything down in a notebook I stored at Jess's house. Her mom, Sandra, suggested we make backup copies of everything. She even offered to keep them in her office safe, just in case. Marissa's threats escalated. She cornered me when Dad wasn't around, her tone low and dangerous. I started carrying Mom's old phone in the lining of my backpack. One afternoon, I managed to slip it into the air vent in my room before Marissa came in for one of her inspections. The recording caught 20 minutes of her rifling through my drawers, muttering about finding whatever that brat is hiding. I decided to go to our family lawyer, Mr. Nathaniel, the one who handled Mom's will. His secretary gave me an appointment, but when I arrived, he looked uncomfortable. He said that without new physical evidence, the ruling on Mom's death wouldn't change. The coroner's report was final. The case was closed. I saw it in his eyes, sympathy, but also fear. Marissa had gotten to him, too. At school, 3 teachers started quietly checking in on me. Mrs. Allenay noticed I'd stopped sitting with anyone at lunch. Mr. Thomas, my chemistry teacher, commented on how tired I looked. Coach McAllister said I seemed distracted in PE. They didn't say it out loud, but I knew. They were watching over me. The mail came while Marissa was at her yoga class. I got to it first. I tore open a credit card statement before she could see it. My hands shook as I scanned the list of charges. 2 weeks before Mom died, there was a purchase from an online store specializing in trampoline parts, springs designed to fail under certain weight limits. Then Brad from Mom's coworkers messaged me on Facebook. He'd been distant since the funeral, but something had been weighing on him. Mom had come to him the week before she died, asking questions about changing her life insurance beneficiary, how to protect assets in case of divorce.
Marissa played the concerned stepmother flawlessly. Other shoppers stared. Some even took pictures. That night at home, Dad cornered me in the kitchen. His voice was tight, clipped. Bella told us everything, he said. How you grabbed her at the party, forced her to lie about that conference weekend. His disappointment felt like a knife. I know you miss your mom, he said. But taking it out on Marissa and Bella isn't going to help anyone. Dad, I have proof. Enough, he snapped, slamming his palm on the counter. You're spiraling, Hannah. Thank God Marissa is here to help us through this. I lay awake in my doorless room, staring at the ceiling. Mom's phone, hidden beneath my mattress, felt like a live wire. The text about the insurance, the neighbor's strange sightings, Bella's drunken confession. The puzzle pieces were all there. I just had to stay alive long enough to connect them. The next day, while I was at school, Marissa redecorated my guest room. I came home to find a teddy bear sitting on my dresser, oddly positioned.
Its glassy eyes pointed directly at my computer desk. I picked it up. It was too heavy, unbalanced. A quick inspection revealed a tiny camera lens hidden in one of its eyes. I set the bear back exactly where she'd placed it. That night, I made a show of journaling at my desk, writing about evidence I'd supposedly hidden in my school locker. I glanced at the blinking red light on the bear's eye. Sure enough, security footage later showed Marissa's Mercedes pulling into the school parking lot at 11 p.m. The night janitor remembered finding my locker open, contents scattered. I hadn't left anything there but sweaty gym clothes. On Thursday, after school, Mrs. Lai from the hardware store pulled me aside by the bike racks. She had been Mom's friend since their high school days. Her hands trembled. She told me my dad had come in the week before Mom died, bought spring adjustment tools, said he needed them for a home project. But Dad never fixed anything. Mom used to joke he couldn't screw in a light bulb without help. I wrote everything down in a notebook I stored at Jess's house. Her mom, Sandra, suggested we make backup copies of everything. She even offered to keep them in her office safe, just in case. Marissa's threats escalated. She cornered me when Dad wasn't around, her tone low and dangerous. I started carrying Mom's old phone in the lining of my backpack. One afternoon, I managed to slip it into the air vent in my room before Marissa came in for one of her inspections. The recording caught 20 minutes of her rifling through my drawers, muttering about finding whatever that brat is hiding. I decided to go to our family lawyer, Mr. Nathaniel, the one who handled Mom's will. His secretary gave me an appointment, but when I arrived, he looked uncomfortable. He said that without new physical evidence, the ruling on Mom's death wouldn't change. The coroner's report was final. The case was closed. I saw it in his eyes. Sympathy, but also fear. Marissa had gotten to him too. At school, 3 teachers started quietly checking in on me. Mrs. I noticed I'd stopped sitting with anyone at lunch. Mr. Thomas, my chemistry teacher, commented on how tired I looked. Coach McAllister said I seemed distracted in PE. They didn't say it out loud, but I knew they were watching over me. The mail came while Marissa was at her yoga class. I got to it first. I tore open a credit card statement before she could see it. My hands shook as I scanned the list of charges. 2 weeks before Mom died, there was a purchase from an online store specializing in trampoline parts, springs designed to fail under certain weight limits. Then Brad, one of Mom's coworkers, messaged me on Facebook. He'd been distant since the funeral, but something had been weighing on him. Mom had come to him the week before she died, asking questions about changing her insurance beneficiary, how to protect assets in case of divorce. I changed my approach. That night at dinner, I acted like everything was normal. I complimented Marissa's cooking, asked about her Pilates class, even chuckled at Dad's corny work stories. He visibly relaxed. The tension left his shoulders. He said he was tired of all the family drama. A week later, an envelope arrived. I recognized the logo immediately, from the insurance documents I'd seen in Dad's study. The return address? Fraud Investigation Department. I slipped it into my backpack before anyone noticed.
Brad met me at a coffee shop a few blocks from school. His hands shook as he spoke, voice low and nervous. What Mom had uncovered was worse than I imagined. Marissa had convinced Dad to take out a $2 million life insurance policy on Mom, just 6 months before she died. Mom had found out and started asking questions, quietly, carefully. She was gathering evidence. That night at dinner, I casually dropped the word insurance into a conversation about college planning, right as I passed the salad bowl. Marissa's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattered on the tile floor. Red wine spread like blood across the white ceramic. 2 days later, she cornered me after school. She made an offer that confirmed everything. $50,000, a fresh start, boarding school in Europe. All I had to do was leave quietly and never contact my dad again. I smiled and told her I wanted to finish senior year with my friends.
Something shifted in Bella after that. She started sitting with me at lunch, ignored the looks from her usual crowd. She barely ate, picking at her food while murmuring that she didn't want to disappoint her mom. I didn't push. I just let her know I was there. The truth about Dad's supposed conference alibi came to me by accident. I was researching colleges when I stumbled across the hotel's events calendar for that weekend. There hadn't been a single conference. The entire venue had been reserved for a massive wedding. I called the hotel, pretending to check on a lost item. The manager remembered it clearly. "No conferences at all that week," he said. The timeline finally locked into place. Everyone else's stories aligned. Neighbors saw someone messing with the trampoline. The hardware store had receipts. The hotel had no record of a conference. Only 3 people told a different story: Dad, Marissa, and Bella. Then Endra, Grandma's nurse, took a huge risk. She slipped me a letter she'd found hidden inside one of Grandma's books. It was in Mom's handwriting. "If anything happens to me, investigate the trampoline." Mom had known. Jess set up an encrypted group chat with 5 people we trusted. They took shifts watching the house from the park across the street, pretending to study together. They documented everything. Sandra, Jess' mom, became my quiet protector. She couldn't step in legally, but she could guide me, support me, and help keep me sane. I knew breaking into Marissa's room would be reckless. So instead, during one of our lunch chats, I asked Bella if she'd ever noticed anything odd in her mom's room: hidden compartments, files, anything strange. She promised to check during their next mother-daughter spa day. The confrontation happened in the dairy aisle of a grocery store. I was grabbing milk when Marissa appeared behind me. She started in with her usual manipulation, sweet voice laced with threats. But I didn't flinch. I just stated facts, calmly and clearly. Other shoppers started to notice. Her voice rose. And then, she slipped. She claimed she'd been at home the night of Mom's death, taking care of Dad because he was too hammered to make it to the conference. Except, Dad had supposedly been at the conference. The cracks were showing. The next day, Mr. Henson, our neighbor, approached me while I was walking home. He handed me a USB drive. He'd installed security cameras years ago after a break-in. The footage from the night before Mom died showed strange activity in our backyard. Someone moving near the trampoline. He saved it after hearing neighborhood rumors about tampering. Then came Uncle Mike. He'd been distant since the funeral, but after seeing the evidence I'd been collecting, something in him changed. He started asking questions Dad couldn't answer. Why was there no hotel record of a conference? Why did Marissa's credit card show trampoline part purchases? Why was the life insurance policy changed 6 months before Mom's death? Mike's doubt became visible at family dinners. He wasn't hiding it anymore. Now 4 people were suspicious without my prompting. The hardware store owner, the neighbors, Mike, and Mom's coworkers. Truth has a way of finding light when enough people start looking. Sandra introduced me to a private investigator she knew. He worked pro bono cases. He couldn't officially open an investigation, but he could guide me, teach me how to gather, label, and protect evidence. Marissa made a fatal error during another tense encounter. She admitted being at the house that night, said she came to check on Dad who'd been too drunk to drive. But Dad had supposedly been at the conference. Her stories were unraveling. Mike pulled me aside after Sunday dinner. His eyes were misty, his voice rough. He apologized for not seeing it sooner, for trusting too easily, for not questioning the story we'd all been told. He offered me his spare room, said it was mine any time I needed to get out. "Your mom," he said softly, "would never forgive me if I didn't help you now."
He blamed himself for not protecting me. The call from Marissa's ex-husband, Alex, came out of nowhere. He'd found my story through a mutual friend. His voice was calm, but there was pain in every word as he recounted the story of his own mother's death 5 years earlier.
She'd fallen off a ladder while cleaning her gutters. The timing was chilling, just days after she'd discovered Alex's affair with Marissa. A pattern had emerged. Women who uncovered affairs, women who asked the wrong questions, women who posed a threat to Marissa's ambitions. They had accidents. Even after everything, I refused to turn Bella into a weapon. When she offered to sneak through Marissa's phone, I gently declined. I didn't want to manipulate her like her mother did. That choice built trust, slowly, carefully. 5 neighborhood families quietly began turning down Marissa's invitations. Polite rejections at school pickup lines, declined dinner parties. The social isolation Marissa had built for me was turning back on her. Dr. Morrison, despite being Marissa's friend, was a mandated reporter. During our 3rd therapy session, he began to shift focus, less about grief, more about my home life, the manipulation, the gaslighting. When Marissa tried to have me committed, it backfired spectacularly. It all came to a head on a Thursday night. Dad walked into the kitchen and caught Marissa mid-scream, ranting at me about ruining everything, her future, her reputation. Her voice was raw and venomous, her mask finally slipping. And for the first time, I saw something in Dad's eyes. Doubt. Church friends who'd once kept their distance started reaching out. They no longer went through Marissa, they texted or called me directly. They dropped off groceries, offered rides. Quietly, steadily, the community was waking up. Then Mom's friend from the bank, CB, took a huge risk. She confirmed what Mom had tried to do before her death. She'd been working on changing her life insurance beneficiary, asking how to protect her assets from a potentially dangerous spouse. The paperwork had been started. It just hadn't been filed in time. Then came the tipping point. An insurance investigator reached out to me personally. The $2 million payout was set to be released in 48 hours. Once that happened, the money would be gone, transferred to the named beneficiary, Marissa. Meanwhile, Bella's aunt noticed bruises on her arms during a family visit, faint but unmistakable. The kind you get from being gripped too hard, the kind a parent leaves when control is slipping through their fingers. Bella's perfect image began to crack. The stakes became crystal clear. Either I proved what really happened, or Marissa walked away with $2 million and vanished forever. I did what Mom would have done. I worked methodically, logically. I cataloged every piece of evidence, cross-referenced dates, connected witness statements. I built a timeline, not with emotion, but with facts. Dad's coworkers started excluding Marissa from company events. Her behavior at the company picnic had left an impression. Too loud, too controlling. Something's off about her, they said. 7 people now actively believed me. They weren't a formal group, they didn't strategize, but the truth has gravity. It pulls people together like iron filings to a magnet. The first true win came when Bella moved in with her aunt. Marissa's grip shattered. Her own daughter had chosen safety over loyalty. The aunt had seen the bruises, heard enough to file for emergency custody. In desperation, Marissa launched a final smear campaign. She told anyone who would listen that I had pushed Mom, that I was jealous, that the trampoline accident was my fault. But then came Mr. Henson's security footage. Time-stamped video showed me at Jess's house during the exact window when the springs were tampered with. My alibi? Solid. Marissa's? Falling apart. As the 48-hour deadline loomed, I stayed up all night finalizing a detailed timeline, every shred of evidence, every conversation, every receipt. Sandra helped me make multiple copies. The originals went in her office safe. I kept backups at school, at Mike's house. Then something I never expected. Bella showed up at school. She found me at lunch, face pale, lips trembling. She said nothing, just handed me a sealed manila envelope, then disappeared down the hall before anyone could notice. Inside, photocopies, receipts from her mother's desk drawer, hardware store purchases, trampoline parts, all dated during the critical time window. And just in time?
The insurance investigator arrived at our house that afternoon. I watched from my bedroom window as his sedan rolled into the driveway. Moments later, Marissa's white Mercedes screeched to a stop behind him. She must have been watching the street, waiting. I grabbed my binder of evidence and headed downstairs. The living room felt like a war zone. Dad sat slumped on the couch, looking disoriented, while Marissa paced in front of the fireplace, barely concealing her panic. The investigator, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a methodical calm, set up his laptop on the coffee table. Uncle Mike arrived just as the questioning started. He positioned himself by the doorway, arms crossed, his silent presence a line in the sand. He wasn't going anywhere. His support steadied me. I walked the investigator through everything, step by step. The conference that never existed, the hardware store receipts, the neighbor's eyewitness accounts. Marissa's carefully rehearsed exterior began to crack with each fact I laid down. She tried to interrupt, called me a disturbed teenager desperate for attention. But the investigator didn't take the bait. He stayed focused on the documents, not her dramatics. He combed through the credit card statements, verified the hotel's event records, and studied the timestamps from the security footage. When I finally showed him Mom's final text, the one about insurance concerns, Marissa slipped. She was always paranoid about that policy, constantly accusing and asking questions. The investigator's pen stopped. He looked up. The room went still. She just admitted knowledge of Mom's suspicions before the accident, something she'd never mentioned before. Dad's face drained of all color. He stared at Marissa like he didn't know her at all. His hand trembled as he reached for a glass of water, but he missed. Then Bella arrived, with her aunt. Despite the warm weather, she wore long sleeves. When she lifted her arm to tuck her hair behind her ear, the bruises on her wrist were unmistakable, purple marks in the shape of fingers. Her aunt helped her to a chair across from the investigator. Bella didn't hesitate. Everything came pouring out, years of control and threats, the fear, the shame, and what she saw in the backyard the night before Mom died. Dad fell apart. His body shook with silent sobs, disbelief written across his face. Mike moved to his side, a steady hand on his shoulder, anchoring him in the storm. The investigator requested to inspect the trampoline. We filed outside like mourners at a funeral. The springs had been replaced after the accident, but Mr. Henson's video had captured everything, someone tampering with them the night before. Marissa made one last attempt to flip the script. She accused me of fabricating the evidence, said I was consumed by grief and guilt, and orchestrated everything to pin it on her. But no one believed her anymore. Even she didn't sound convinced. The investigator took photos from every angle. He measured distances, checked sight lines from nearby yards, every detail documented. Back inside, I made a choice. I handed over everything, even the evidence that showed Dad had been complicit in the insurance fraud, whether or not he knew about the rest. The investigator labeled each document, tagging them carefully. As I handed him the last folder, Dad stood up abruptly. He didn't say a word. Not to me, not to Mike, not even to Marissa. He walked out the front door. We heard his car start, tires crunching over the gravel. The sound felt final. Marissa's last move came wrapped in legal threats. She claimed I'd stolen private documents, invaded her privacy, defamed her character. The investigator didn't flinch. Evidence of insurance fraud overrides those concerns, he said flatly. And then came the nanny cam footage. Not only had it caught her rifling through my things, but it also recorded her making panicked phone calls, discussing moving money offshore, planning her escape if things turned bad. By nightfall, the investigator had enough to freeze the $2 million payout indefinitely. The money was locked. There would be no payout until the case was fully resolved. Marissa's dream of cashing in evaporated. She left that night, packed her designer luggage into her car, and drove away without a word. Not even to Bella. Especially not to Bella. Dad returned 3 days later, but only to pack his own bags. He couldn't look me in the eye, couldn't speak. Mike tried to reason with him, but Dad had made his choice. He followed Marissa into whatever life they thought they could still salvage. Too ashamed to face what he had allowed, or who he'd chosen over his daughter. The house felt different without them. Hollow, but safe.
Not empty in a sad way, more like the poison had finally been drained from a deep wound. Mike moved in temporarily, saying it was to help with upkeep around the house, but we both knew the truth. He was there to make sure I was safe. Grandma came home from the nursing facility with her reading glasses perched on her nose and her cane tapping out familiar rhythms on the floor. She took over Mom's old room, filling the space with the comforting scent of lavender soap and peppermint tea. Her presence made the air warmer, softer, safer. Bella visited every week. Her aunt dropped her off, and we'd sit together in Mom's restored garden. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. Just two girls who had made it through the same storm, sitting side by side, breathing easier. The investigation stretched on for months. Forensic accountants uncovered strange financial patterns. Insurance experts picked apart the policy. The trampoline manufacturer supplied specs for the failed springs. In the end, no criminal charges were filed. The evidence strongly suggested foul play, but proving it beyond a reasonable doubt was another matter. Marissa had been meticulous, almost meticulous enough. But the $2 million payout was voided. The policy was deemed fraudulent. Instead, Mom's employer death benefit was placed into a trust for my education, managed jointly by Mike and Sandra. I found the key to Mom's safety deposit box right where she'd told Grandma to hide it, tucked inside her old jewelry box. Inside were the documents she'd quietly gathered: Dad's financial discrepancies, records of Marissa's questionable past, and a letter addressed to me, dated 2 weeks before she died. It didn't accuse or warn. It simply said she loved me, told me to keep learning, to trust my instincts, to surround myself with people who saw me, who truly cared. She must have known something was wrong, but she didn't want fear to be her final message. 6 months later, Dad sent a single email. No apology, no explanation, just a forwarding address for legal paperwork. Marissa had convinced him to start over in another state. New names, new jobs, probably new victims. But the people here remembered. Mrs. Lee kept Mom's photo up on the bulletin board at the hardware store. The neighbors brought over hot meals when they saw Grandma's light on late at night. Jess's family invited us to every holiday meal without fail. Bella chose to stay with her aunt permanently. The custody filing went uncontested. Marissa didn't even show up to court. She was too busy saving herself. The house changed, slowly. Grandma and I painted the walls new colors, ones Mom would have chosen. We rehung family photos Marissa had tried to erase. The meditation space turned back into a vegetable garden, full of tomatoes and herbs and life again. Mike helped me with college applications. With the restored trust and a few scholarships, I had options: good schools, strong engineering programs, everything Mom had wanted for me. Bella and I became closer through quiet healing. She joined my study group, came over for dinner with Grandma and me twice a week. Over time, she became the sister I never had, not because we were forced together, but because we chose each other. The community rallied around us, not with pity, but with recognition, that sometimes families fall apart in ways no one expects, that rebuilding takes more than time, it takes people. Dr. Morrison apologized. He admitted he'd been fooled too, But he stayed involved after the truth came out, offering free sessions to help process everything. Real help, not the kind Marissa had pretended to offer. I graduated with honors. The empty chair in the crowd hurt, but Grandma's tears of pride helped. Mike's applause was way too loud. Jess and Sandra's family filled a whole row. The scholarship I founded in Mom's name went to students pursuing engineering, funded by the recovered insurance money and generous community donations. Her legacy lived on, in others' dreams. Marissa resurfaced in another state. Alex messaged me on social media with a warning. She'd remarried, another widower, another suspicious death in his past. But this time, authorities had been alerted. Patterns were being tracked. I chose a college close enough to visit Grandma on weekends, far enough to build something new. The engineering program challenged me in all the ways Mom would have loved. Bella enrolled a year later. Different majors, different lives, but one unshakable bond. Because family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one you build, from the ashes, from the truth, from the wreckage someone else left behind. The trampoline came down last summer. Mike and I took it apart piece by piece, each spring a small goodbye. We turned the space into a patch of sunflowers. And this time, when we looked at the backyard, we didn't see what we'd lost. We saw what we'd reclaimed.
We turned the space into a memorial garden. Not somber, peaceful. Grandma planted all of Mom's favorite flowers, lavender, daisies, peonies. On the anniversary of Mom's death, we gathered there. Not just Grandma and me, but Mike, Bella, Sandra's family, the neighbors who'd spoken out. We share memories, not the ones shaped by tragedy, but the kind that remind us of who she really was. Funny, fierce, and always the smartest person in the room. Dad never came back, never called. His absence became a presence of its own, a hollow space that reminded us sometimes love isn't enough to overcome fear, that silence is its own choice. But honestly, his leaving was a gift. It gave us room to breathe, to heal without having to untangle his guilt from his denial. I keep one photo on my dorm desk, just me and Mom caught midair on the trampoline, both of us laughing like the world couldn't touch us. Before everything, but also exactly who we were. Joy frozen in time. The truth saved us, not in courtroom declarations or headlines, but in quiet, consistent courage. Neighbors who noticed something was wrong. Friends who listened instead of dismissing. A drunken confession from a girl who'd been too afraid to speak until that moment. That's what saved us. Mom's old Northwestern hoodie hangs in my dorm closet now. It doesn't smell like vanilla anymore, but I wear it during finals. It reminds me, education really was the one thing no one could take from me. She'd been right about that. These days, Grandma, Mike, Bella, and I share quiet dinners. Simple meals. Long talks. Unspoken understanding. Different from the life we had, but whole in its own way. We built something new from the broken parts. Not the family we expected, but the one we needed. The investigation officially closed last month. No charges filed, no courtroom scenes, just paperwork. A file stamped shut. Not the kind of ending you read in novels. But maybe that's the point. It was never about the ending. It was about surviving long enough to start something new.